Hello and welcome to this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me, where we focus less on the dis and more on the ability of what we can do. Join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, live on the Disability Global Broadcast and Facebook Live. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Yes, you are, and here we are. It is another Wednesday, another 2 o'clock, and another dynamic episode of My CP Does Not Define Me. And I am here today with my friend, my sister. I could call her so many names. And she has a cool cat named Tucker, and I like him a lot. And we're going to talk about a lot of things today on episode 90. 90.
90. Oh my goodness.
I feel like I should be walking with a walker hunched over going, I'm not as young as I used to be.
Well, you're going to have some kind of celebration when you hit 100. I know that for sure.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that. I'd like to welcome everybody to the show as you come in. Hey, Cindy. Hey, Lena. Oh, my favorite people. Yay, you're our favorite people too, Lena. It's so nice to see you guys. And thank everybody for tuning in. We are live on StreamYard, Facebook, and the Disability Global Broadcast, the DGB. And I am DJ C, D to the J with a roll away, and that's all of the abbreviations that I know for myself at this time. So I have brought back Miss Kristina McCormick for, I guess, part 2, part 3, part 90. I'm not sure.
I don't know. This is my second time on your show, but we've done so many shows together now. It's hard to keep track.
It's like peanut butter and jelly. It just goes together when you smush it. There we go. I guess that's the easiest way to put it. So, for those of us that don't know you, would you just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you want to share, where you're from, that kind of thing. How awesome I am, that.
Okay, so I'm Kristina McCormick. I am 26, about to be 27. Was born with spastic diplegia, cerebral palsy, but like we've said many times on this show, CP is just part of me. Doesn't define me. I'm also a teacher, a traveler, kind of a gym junkie these days. I'm working on a master's thesis right now, trying to finish up my master's degree. I do some tutoring on the side when I'm not trying to write a thesis and teach and whatnot. So that pretty much describes me. Yeah, fitness and teaching. And I have a cat that I like very much who just happens to be right here with me today, my sidekick here. So this is Tucker.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit off air. This cat is much older than he looks, and we were like, this cat is the coolest cat ever because I think he's part dog, just because of the affection that he shows. But I guess my first question for you is I want to go back to your childhood a little bit. I can't remember if I asked this question on my last show. I know I asked something like it. Hey, Nikki, how are you? Hey, Kim. When you were little, what did you aspire to be when you were a little girl?
I had always wanted to be a teacher. I always loved school, and I just had it in my head from probably the time I started school that was what I wanted to do, that I wanted to help kids have fun when they were learning, that I wanted to help them understand it. And and there were people that told me that, maybe that wasn't a good idea. Like teachers stand a lot, and this, that, and the other. And yeah, it's a physically demanding job. I'm not going to deny that, but I feel like I'm definitely doing, what I was meant to do. It's just not every day that you hear that somebody says when they're that young, I'm going to be a teacher, and they go and do it. Even one of my current coworkers, I was in her class when I was maybe a sophomore in high school. So I was maybe 15 years old. And she had gone around the room at the beginning of the semester, and she'd asked us all, what do you want to do after high school? What are your plans? And I had said, well, I really think I'd like to be a Spanish teacher someday. And she, to this day, says, I really have to admire you for really sticking to your guns, because not too many people when they're in high school say, this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then you turn around, all these years later, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So
now you actually went to the school that you teach at and graduated and teach. Now that right there is a nugget in itself. But I guess kind of what I'm trying to find out is, as you started growing up, and when did you really realize that you wanted to be a teacher?
I would say probably high school. So I did pretty well in Spanish from the beginning, and my guidance counselor had actually asked me at one point if I would be interested in tutoring another student who was struggling, because the teacher that I had at that time, you either matched well with that person or you did not. And it was one of those things where this student didn't match well with the teacher but needed extra help. And the guidance counselor looked and said, oh, well, Kristina's getting, a 98 in the class. Let's see if she can't offer some expertise to the student. And that's where I really realized, I enjoy explaining this to people. It's easy for me to explain to them. They understand it. That gives me some validation, because I've, taught them how to do something they didn't know before. And so it just kind of blossomed from there. I had always known that I wanted to be a teacher, but it wasn't until I started tutoring other kids in Spanish that I realized that those two could go together in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I could pursue, going forward post high school graduation.
What did it give you? I mean, what can you explain the gratification that you felt? Because I know for me, I had a Marine actually tutor me in high school. I learned to do math verbally, and he was able to write as I was speaking. But what gratification did it give you to help the student? And once you realized that you could help the student to understand the problem or the subject, what gratification did it give you?
I guess I just felt a lot more confident. I mean, I always knew that I had done well in Spanish, but the fact that you can understanding something and explaining it to somebody else is a different level of, understanding of a subject. Even as teachers, we have, this hierarchy of knowledge, and one of the top skills is taking something that you know and teaching it to someone else. It takes a different level of knowledge than just being able to string a sentence together, because you have to not only know the information, but you have to be able to explain, here's why it works.
Right. And that's well said. Now, to kind of branch off of that, you having cerebral palsy yourself, this being Disability Awareness Month, and also being Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month, have you had an opportunity to teach someone with a disability of any type? And what is it like for you having a disability yourself, if you have had the opportunity to teach someone with a disability?
I mean, any teacher in just about any public school system is going to come across students that have, IEPs and various accommodations. And I guess it just does feel good, because some of them don't know this and some of them do. Some of them, I've talked to them about it. They might not look at me and think that I ever had any kind of accommodations whatsoever, because I'm a teacher. But when I tell them, hey, I was in your situation too, and I was really able to improve, and I asked for help when I needed it, and I feel like that gives them a sense of validation, that they don't let that define them. They don't have to be embarrassed to ask for what they need. I guess for me, it was like me trying to help them understand to not be ashamed of all of that, because there were times where I was ashamed of the services or the supports that I needed.
Do you think that it takes some of the pressure off when you yourself can say, listen, I was in your situation, this is okay?
I mean, I hope that it does. That's my hope. I've always been a very down to earth, open book kind of person. And I tell the kids that if they have a question, that all they need to do is ask me. I'm, not going to get offended. And I really try to live by that and just try to be transparent about things, because I feel like it helps students to kind of break down those nerves a little bit when they do need something, if you've been honest with them from the start about, your personal situation with school.
Well, you mentioned a couple things already. Honesty, being open, being able to tell a student, hey, look, if you need help with this, ask. And that's a built-in pressure on a student themselves. It's, the whole, you should know this. If I teach it once, you should know this. Usually I was like that, but when it came to certain things, I'm like, can you run that by me one more time? And I heard people go, whew, like, because they weren't the only, I wasn't the only one that wanted it ran again. But there's an unknown fear, I think, in schools now where children can't ask questions because it holds the class up. Because I'm thinking the classes are like, what, 45 minutes now? Is you don't have a lot of time?
No, we're on block scheduling now. We will eventually be to 90 minutes. Right now we're at about 70 with the current COVID situation.
Yeah. So I always love block scheduling because and again, the teacher that you get that can explain that, and when you don't understand it one way, they can flip it and say, try it this way. And that's when the light bulb goes off, because I took Spanish myself in 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. I got to 7th grade and I'm like, no, I'm done. No. She started speaking faster than I could comprehend. I'm like, El, slow down, whoa. Like, El, whoa, you But I enjoy being able to, if I don't understand something, a teacher being able to break it down a different way. Do you find that you have to break it down different ways for different people?
Oh, yeah, always. I mean, you've got to be willing and able to do that. That's just going to help you reach more students, and it's going to help more students understand the content. So.
Okay. All right. Got a kind of a technological question for you. I'm sure you've been asked this a lot, but I'm gonna throw it out there. What you? There's CP again coming in the corner. What? Whoo! Yeah. Words are hard. What would you say is your most difficult challenge with teaching with CP, and how has technology assisted you in this field?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, at first it was a physical challenge, and then you do get used to being on your feet a certain amount. I do enjoy a lot of the projector type technology that we have now. Like back in the day, I'm sure you remember the teachers with the overheads with their wet erase markers. They write a problem up there, and then they got to get a paper towel wet, and they got to erase all that. I'm so glad we do not have that anymore. I mean, we've got some really nice projector technology where, like, I can stand in front of my document cam. I can write all over something that we're reading, and the kids can see it on the screen, and I'm not in anybody's way. And when I'm done with that piece of paper, I can grab another one and keep writing. And it's technology just makes sharing information with students so much easier than previously, I think. I mean, I have been lucky enough to have been teaching when technology, has really been around to support teachers. And I think even more so with the pandemic, there's been a lot of tools that have made our lives easier over the last couple of years too.
Okay. I was going to go into that, but before I do, I want to back up a little bit. Being a teacher and having a disability, and being a teacher is hard enough because I think teachers are overworked and underpaid. I think a teacher's and there are millions of teachers all over the world that work their butts off and don't get paid near the amount they should. Having a disability in teaching, do you feel added pressure that you need to succeed because you have CP? Because they're looking at you going, this is Kristina, she's not going to make it. I don't know if she can. Is there added pressure? with a
I think
disability?
really the only added pressure that comes with being a teacher with a disability is pressure that I put on myself to be my best and to prove myself. And I think definitely at the beginning of my career, I felt like I had to prove myself because even being a woman as a teacher, I mean, I can talk real loud, don't get me wrong, but I don't have this big booming teacher voice, and you have to make these kids' mind to be taken seriously. You can have fun all you want, but there was a certain amount of pressure I put on myself to be, okay, Kristina, you're the adult in the room. You're going to keep these kids in line. You're not going to let them do this, this, or this, and I don't think anybody else, I think everybody else, wanted me to succeed and expected that I would because I'm a hardworking person. But I think the pressure to be the best actually came more so from myself than from anybody else.
Nikki asked, how many years have you been teaching?
This is that's a complicated question though, because see, I had to be an overachiever and graduate college early. So I actually graduated a semester earlier than I normally would. I started teaching in January. So I taught a semester at a school about an hour and a half west of where I'm living now. Taught there for a semester. At the end of the school year, or towards the end of the school year, I got a call from my high school Spanish teacher. And she says, I'm retiring. There's going to be an opening. I know I heard you got another job, but I would like you to apply. So I applied, I interviewed, and, lo and behold, got the job. And so now I've been teaching here in Streeter for 5 years. So technically, at the end of this year, I'll have 5.5 years as a teacher.
Now, you received the Golden Apple, right? The Golden Apple Award?
Yeah, so the Golden Apple Scholarship started in Illinois, I want to say mid-90s. Used to be an only inside of Chicago scholarship. They've since expanded it to the entire state. And my induction class of the Golden Apple Scholars, there was 135 scholars from all around the state. At the time, you submitted 6 written essays about why you wanted to be a teacher. You went through an interview process, and if you got the scholarship, it was essentially about $20,000 in scholarship support for college. Okay, a little bit every year, and you were required to go to 4 summer institutes, which was basically you were a classroom assistant in summer school in different areas of the state each summer of your college career. So my first summer was actually the summer after I graduated from high school. I had not yet sat in a college classroom. It was my first time away from home. And, here I was helping out these little 3rd graders in their classroom for summer school. And it was one of the most eye-opening experiences, literally just to be thrown. You feel like you're being thrown to the woods. I mean, you weren't, because there was obviously supports in place.
Right.
That's what you felt like until you figured it out. And that's where I figured out teaching elementary school wasn't for me, but those kids were really cute.
Now, was that Spanish as well, or was that?
No. Oftentimes they do not have Spanish summer school classes. These summer school classes are for kids that didn't pass the previous year, or for kids that need some extra support. So most of the time, I would get put in like an English language arts situation, being as that's the closest thing to Spanish, which is what I wanted to teach at the time.
So English was your minor?
No, well, yes and no. I'm not certified to teach English. I'm certified to teach English as a second language. And in my area, Spanish being the second most spoken language besides English, it kind of went hand in hand that I would either be teaching Spanish or I would be teaching English to Spanish speakers.
Well, let's dive into the teaching dialect a little bit more. I want to ask you this, and you guys, that was a great question, Nikki. No need to be sorry on that. That was a great question. I want to ask you, what do you consider the hardest thing about teaching Spanish? Because I know for me, some of the dialects and some of the past tenses and pretenses and all of that are hard. What do you consider the hardest thing about teaching Spanish?
The hardest thing about teaching it, I think nowadays is just, to me, I want the kids to see value in that. I want them to, see Spanish as useful. And I think with English becoming such a global language, I'm really having to kind of entice them more and more, and help them look for these connections, as to how they can use Spanish outside my classroom. So they're going to take it seriously and continue on with their studies until they develop, some real useful conversation skills.
Well, I actually took one year of Spanish 1 in high school. I lasted about 4 weeks, and I went into the class.
You lasted about 4 weeks. You're always over here speaking random Spanish to me.
Well, the thing I didn't like about it was the teacher was one of those, I say, you repeat, and it was very mundane. We are going.
And that was the style back then too. I think some of that it's not so much the teacher, it's just that was how it was until we came out with some of these more communicative role play type approaches to language learning. But I can see why that would be a little bit mundane.
I was just in Spanish for the chicks, man. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm like, I wanted to pick up the girls, and I was like, I wanted to go. The first phrase I wanted to learn was how to ask somebody on a date. And I'm like, this ain't gonna work because she bigger than me, so I ain't. No, you can send to say over there. I'm just gonna wait. But I don't know. I guess I was good with memory and stuff, but reading and writing Spanish is two different things. And writing Spanish for me was, and we couldn't speak English in the class. And I'm like, El don't understando el frazo. And she's like, no comprende. I'm like, what in USOL? I mean, like, because, I don't know, writing Spanish for me with the little accents and knowing where to put them, and, and going into there, I think they expected you to take Spanish your whole life up to that class and remember everything you learned your whole life. I'm like, can we start with, hey, how are you? Come on, stop. It's just easy.
No, like I teach mostly the freshman classes, so I have to assume they don't know anything, and then if they do, we have to appropriately place them into some other type of class. But I find in my area now, we do have some elementary schools who are starting to teach Spanish to the kids. And I find that even sometimes those kids want to come to high school and still take Spanish 1 because they're like, okay, I've learned it for years and I really know my colors and I really know this and I really know that, but I'm just not sure if Spanish 2 is where I want to be. So sometimes they sit in Spanish 1 and it's a really good review and they feel more confident. And sometimes they get in Spanish 1, they're like, I already know. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Time to go to Spanish 2. So it depends on the student and where they're comfortable in kind of resuming some of that learning that they've started in previous years.
I'm probably going to age myself here a little bit, but what the heck? I'll be 40. I don't mind. They have Rosetta Stone now. They've had Rosetta Stone for a long time. Are you familiar with something called Muzzy?
I've heard of it, but I have not checked it out.
Muzzy, for me, was a cartoon video. They taught French, Italian, Spanish, and German. And Muzzy was a commercial where there were Spanish-speaking characters, and I tried out the software, and my mom was like, how do you pick this up? When I hear something, I'm able to imitate it. I'm able to understand it. I'm able to repeat it. But once I don't use it or once I lose it, it's like, crap, I forgot it. What do I do now?
Right.
Because I notice with you'll tell me a phrase, and I can say part of the phrase, and I'm like, okay, say the other part, and then put it together. So are the teaching methods different now to how do you get them to retain how do you get the students to retain the information?
I mean, some of that is their own doing too. Yes, we do a ton of practice in class, but especially now on a block scheduling, I tell them, I'm like, if you really want to remember this, you're going to need to practice at home as well. Like, it does have to be a certain amount of self-dedication, and really putting in the time to not just learn it for the test and cram so you can, get a, C on your quiz. Like, it's really about putting in that time outside of school as well. And we do a lot of conversation activities. I'm incorporating more role play as we go too. I feel like that really helps, but we're still with the textbook program right now that is pretty much vocab and grammar, and actually looking at new textbooks now to hopefully switch everything over to a more conversational approach with more ease, because it's not going to be me and my coworker making up all the conversation activities. We're going to have some of those things already ready to use.
Sure.
Hopefully within the next couple of years, it'll be even easier for them to retain it, because they're just using it in context instead of having to be like, here's the grammar, here's the vocab, and it's not going to be so broken up as it's been in previous years.
Is it a lot of English to Spanish teacher say student do? I mean, how much?
No, I mean, it's not like the audio approach that you had when you were in high school, but it is still like, okay, let's learn a sentence structure, let's practice it, let's use it in some conversations. There's more of a conversational component, but it is still very much based on the vocab and the grammar. And so we're just, not that we don't want them to understand grammar, but I do think that you don't have to explain everything all the time. Sometimes you just get it when it's in a conversation in context and you can understand what it means.
Sure, you've been asked this question a lot, but I'm going to ask it just for the heck of it. How many times do you bust out laughing when something's lost in translation?
Oh yeah, no, we have some facts about some things for sure. Like, things I say, things the kids say. I mean, like, it's there's never a boring day in teaching, and sometimes my immature self has to remember that I'm the adult and I can't laugh at everything, unfortunately. So.
Well, this next question may be kind of hard, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it because I want to see where you go with it. If you weren't teaching Spanish, what do you think you would be doing?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, I love traveling, so I could see myself having some sort of an interpreter job, somewhere else. I think I'd still be doing something with Spanish because I enjoy Spanish so much. But yeah, I definitely, if I wasn't like stuck, so to speak, in the same place for my teaching job, I think I would definitely do something that involved a lot more traveling.
Well, I know there are tons of different dialects. I know that there are when you go into a different part of the world where the dialect is different, how much of the dialect being different does that translate the meaning of what they say being different? And how do you bridge that barrier if you don't necessarily teach that dialect? Is that a good way to?
Well, I mean, okay, like it could be a dialect. Yeah, a lot of times it's just differences in pronunciation, and there is, differing vocab from place to place. A lot of times, when I'm traveling, I learn new words for things because I just don't know. And you can always you can always tell someone you don't understand, or, oh, I'm sorry, what was that? Or, because like there might be 16 different words for popcorn. I mean, depending on what country you go to, there's always a learning curve, and you can't let the fact that somebody pronounces something differently discourage you from being like, okay, your pronunciation is a little bit weird, but I still understand what you're saying. I don't pronounce things perfectly the way it is. I didn't learn Spanish till high school, and so I will always have a different sounding Spanish than your typical speaker who grew up speaking it. So I think with everything, there's differences in language. I mean, if you go to you go to New York, you're going to hear a different accent than here. If you go down south, you're going to need a dictionary because they've got their own thing going on down there.
Yeah, I can see me in Mexico going, I don't understand these Spanish speaking people.
No, I mean, like, even if you go to Texas, they've got, like, not even outside of the United States, like, you really think about how many different variations of English there are. It's not
that's true.
Spanish. You can't let it scare you away from, trying your best to learn something new. So,
well, I'm just amazed at how far you've come for it, and you just continue to do well, in what you're doing. And I know the kids love you because, and you can see that's where your passion is. Now, lately, as you said, you've been going somewhat of a gym junkie, and you've been getting to it. I mean, I know you've done 21-day challenges, you've done 5Ks, you've done working on the treadmill, you've done weightlifting, you've increased, from, I think you started with what, 2 pounds?
No, I started with the 1 pound low pain.
And you're up to what, 8 now, right?
No, I started with 9 last week.
Man, look at you, 9 pounds.
So, yeah, I mean, and that's been since, like, over the summer, but still, that's, that's really a big.
It is. I'm so amazed with your progress, man. You stand so much straighter now. You've talked about Trisha on the show before. Your ability to, seeing you walk from 2 years ago to now is dramatic.
And when you're like in it, when you're working on it, you don't necessarily notice all those changes until somebody like Trisha says, all right, now you're going to walk and we're going to video this, and then we're going to look at the last one, and then you're going to go, oh my gosh, that is a lot better. I guess I'm just thankful that there are people in my life that have kind of like forced me to reflect on some things and been like, hey, we're going to watch this video now. I know you don't like watching yourself walk, but like, here you go. And like, look at how much better that is. And, then you get motivated to keep going because you see a progress that's there.
How important is that for your journey to see the progress, to understand that you are making strides? Although they start small, they get bigger.
I mean, it's important for anybody because that's going to allow you to not lose your fire, not lose your motivation as you go. I mean, everybody's going to come upon these bumps in the road that are going to be discouraging, but I feel like as long as I keep seeing progress, that's just giving me more and more motivation to keep trying and keep going despite all of the aches and pains and difficulties along the way.
Mm-hmm. Now, this time last year, you were in some serious pain. I know you had some back issues, you had some calf issues, you had some knee issues. I wanted to wrap you in bubble wrap. Matter of fact, I tried. You've come.
I still have a tendency to injure myself lately, so the bubble wrap might still be needed, but yeah, no, and the back pain was a really tough thing. I mean, it doesn't just mess with your body, it messes with you mentally when you're not sleeping because you're hurting, but then here's the other thing too, is that when I was in that pain, I was honest about it. I was honest about how I felt, and I asked for help from my physical therapist, from my personal trainer, from, various other people. And I feel like that might be the difference between me and some other people, is that you can be in pain, and pain is never fun, but unless you're reaching out to help fix that problem, you're going to remain stuck. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is we just need to make sure that we are reaching out at the appropriate times to get that support so that we can move on from that issue.
Well, talking about your support, let's go ahead and hit it on the head because this question is going to come out here eventually. Talk about Trisha a little bit and what she's done for you in the sense of 2 years ago. I've seen this journey, like, I almost want to say from the start, but she is, I would say a godsend, but that's my word, not yours.
No, I mean, literally, it was like God was like, you need someone in your life. Okay, here's Trisha. Use her wisely. Use her expertise wisely. She's been, here for me from the get-go. She's just an incredibly kind person, but she also knows when to give that tough love and when to tell you like it is. I mean, I started out in physical therapy, and I knew in my mind that I was in bad shape. I knew that I had been lazy, and I knew that I had my work cut out for me. And between her and the other physical therapist I had at the time, who was my physical therapist when I was a kid, it was basically like, hey, we can stretch and we can fix this, or if we can't stretch and fix this, we're going to do Botox. And I heard Botox, and I was like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to have to do that if I don't need to, and so then it was like, okay, so you're gonna make sure you stretch every day, and we're gonna hope that we don't need to get to that point. So I did, I stretched every day. I did everything that I was told to do. I didn't always like it, but I did, and that work that I did at home is a big part of the reason why I'm where I am today. And I'm not saying that to like undervalue any of my support system, but I don't think that people realize that like a good portion of the progress that you're going to make is not going to be from what your physical therapist does for you when you see them, once a week or twice a week at the start, or now I'm down to a couple times a month. Like you do have to put in the work yourself to see those results. But that support system is important too, because when you're putting in the work at home and something hurts and you're just like, or like with the back pain, I was just miserable and I wasn't sure, what to do about it. That's where that support system comes in, and you reach out and you're like, hey, I've got this terrible back pain. I don't know what to do about it. And then, your physical therapist or whoever your support system is can step in and be like, okay, here are some things that we can do to help, but the effort and the drive for success in something like physical therapy does have to come from within.
Mm-hmm.
Other people can't necessarily motivate you. I really think you have to motivate yourself, and you have to want to be better for that to work.
Y'all notice I'm not talking much while she's talking, because she's saying a lot of the things that people need to hear. And I think working at home, especially when it comes to physical therapy, your physical therapist can do so much. Okay. They're going to give you exercises. If you don't follow through, if you don't put in the effort, if you don't put in the work, you're not going to get to where you need to be. I can tell you, stretching is one of the biggest no-nos to stop. I mean, if I was 26 years old and still stretching right now, I would probably still be walking. And again, we do it to ourselves, and I'm not afraid to admit that.
We do, and I'm not afraid to admit my own past mistakes. I mean, I graduated from physical therapy at 18 and was like, okay, I'm free. And
done. That's it.
The dumbest darn thing I ever did. I've always, considered myself to be an intelligent person. But in that aspect, at 18, you get that freedom to not do something. And I didn't realize at the time how incredibly important that would be to my well-being. So fast forward to, and I won't say I didn't stretch, throughout college. I did quite a bit because I was very, very active and have remained active. Mm-hmm. But without the stretching that I've done these last couple of years, I wouldn't have gotten myself back on track. And now I see, like, I get the not wanting to stretch part because it does take time. But in reality, just on stretching, I spend probably about 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes before I go to bed. That's 20 minutes of my day, which I could easily spend down a wormhole on Pinterest or on Facebook. And
if you commit to the schedule, you can stretch 30 minutes.
It's really not a problem. You really just have to make that a part of your day. Mm-hmm. You can always make excuses, I was busy or whatever, but no, in reality, it's just poor time management. And when you start doing it and you realize how much easier it makes your life, then it's like, okay, this is something I need to make time for, because ultimately, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't do all the things that you want to do.
Cindy has a great question here, and it kind of ties into another question that I had. So why didn't you want the Botox? Now, I know that's kind of a lengthy question. Can you kind of give us the short version on that one?
Okay, so Botox is obviously not, it can be helpful, but it's not the first thing you want to do. I mean, you're injecting your muscles with a toxin, essentially, that's going to put them to sleep. Is it going to help you with pain? Yes, definitely. Is it going to loosen things up? Yeah, sure. But it's temporary, and that's a very invasive treatment. And if there's stretching or if there's dry needling or massage that you can do instead, I think anybody is probably gonna want to go towards the less invasive things. Because you also have to think about the cost of Botox too. And I know
$1,000. It's up there.
Yeah. There was a time when I talked to my doctor about Botox as an option, to help me with some of my pain, but it wasn't my first choice. It was me talking to my doctor, like, okay, how feasible is this? We know that it would help, but what are your thoughts? Mm-hmm. And the doctor kind of said, well, we're not going to do something that invasive unless we try some other things first. You're already in physical therapy, so we'll check that box. She ended up putting me on baclofen, just a super, super low dose baclofen, just to help with the spasticity. And I take that every day now. And it's been very helpful, and it's helped me to stay away from the expense of the Botox. It's helped me to stay away from the, non-permanent effects of Botox. I've been able to manage my CP, I think, the best way for me through medication and through stretching.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, Andrea has a good point here. You can't use Botox forever. Your body can only have it for so long. It's kind of like cortisone. It masks the symptoms, and that's
it's a temporary fix to a problem. And I mean, I know I had Botox a couple times as a kid, and it really helped. And I did some serious physical therapy after the Botox to make sure that I got the most out of it. And I wouldn't call it a bad experience, but again, it's a temporary fix. It's not something. Some people might see it as an easy way out, but really, when you think about all the physical therapy that has to go along with it, it's not really an easy of a thing for your body as people would think.
Now, you mentioned dry needling. Is dry needling acupuncture, or is that different?
I mean, essentially, it's a scientific acupuncture. There's nothing in the needles that they use. It's just like they're hitting these trigger points that are going to help to give you more range of motion and kind of release some of that spasticity. So it's like an acupuncture, but there's a scientific reason why they're working with these certain muscles, these certain trigger points to loosen things up.
How bad does it hurt? Because I've actually considered getting dry needling, but I'm a wimp when it comes to pain. So
it's not comfortable, but that depends on how tight you are. And I find that the more physical therapy I've done and the more I've improved, it actually hurts a little less now because I don't have as much spasticity as I used to when I was stretching regularly. There are still times when, I spasm and it hurts like crazy. Don't get me wrong, but for me, that temporary pain is worth it, especially when I've been exercising a lot and I've got a big old knot in my calf. I'd rather have somebody, do a little bit of dry needling and help loosen that up so that I can stretch and do some more physical therapy than be walking around with a big old knot in my leg all miserable, and not willing to try some of those treatments that help. And I guess that was one thing for me in physical therapy that was different than before. There are a lot more treatments now that can be done than when I was a kid. And I guess I'm just really lucky that I've been open-minded about those because they have helped a lot. And if I had shut them down and said no, I don't know that I would be in this place that I'm in right now.
Well, I've kind of held this question back for a little bit because you've answered a lot of the physical stuff. But one thing I want to bridge the gap on is when you were in so much pain and you had the support system of Trisha and your parents and the group and all of us, how do you deal with the mental aspect of, oh my God, I fell again. Oh my God, I hurt myself again. Oh my God, now my back's hurting. Now this is hurting. How do you yourself as Kristina McCormick deal with the mental blockage or the mental pain, and how do you get around it?
I deal with it a lot better now than when I first started physical therapy, because when I started with, my back pain and whatnot a year ago, I hadn't really had that before. So that was a new obstacle for me in a sense, mentally, to figure that out and to, I was trying not to get frustrated, but I was frustrated. And I guess over time I've learned to not be quite so hard on myself and to really kind of lean on that support system to help with that mental frustration. I know that it's still something that I deal with, frustration from time to time. But I also feel like the more progress that I make and the more I look back, I understand the frustration that I had, but I'm also like, okay, I don't want to be in that place again, and I'm not going to continue to let this down because look how far I've come from.
Well, let's go back to about a year and a half ago. Now that you've gone through it, now that you've been through it, if you could talk to your former self that was in that place of, oh my God, when is this going to end? I don't know if I can do this, because you had some pretty rough times. What do you say to yourself in that position now that you have gotten through it? How do you go back and say, okay, this is how you're going to get through this?
I mean, I guess I would just wish that I hadn't been so hard on myself. Like, yes, it's okay to be frustrated, but I feel like I just got angry with myself. Like, Kristina, why on earth can't you figure this out? And I guess if I could go back, I would just tell myself, like, just take a chill pill for a minute, Kristina. Like, you don't have to be great at everything. Like, that it's okay to take things off your plate. My physical therapist and I have had that discussion many times because I often expect more of myself, I think, than what others expect of me. And so I've learned over the last couple of years to take things off my plate, to reduce the mental stress or the physical stress, whichever is the issue at the moment. Take a step back, take something off my plate for a while, and then when I'm ready to pick, the fitness thing back up again or whatever, I can go and do that. But it just takes some reorganizing of your life and of your thought process to figure out what is really needed in a moment of crisis and what is not.
You've said it right there, kind of, and I'm going to go a step further with kind of what you're saying. This whole show with Kristina has been about, you've got to take a look in the mirror and learn to love yourself. We put so much pressure on ourselves as individuals, females, males. I've got to look this way. I've got to be this way. I've got to act this way. I've got to feel this way. To when you start bombarding yourself with how you should be and don't accept yourself as you are, and let the rest of that journey come to its fruition. I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to be something that we're not. Definitely. Instead of being what we are and getting there in pieces. Your journey has not happened overnight, but your journey has been remarkable in the sense of the goals that you've accomplished. I have seen physical and mental changes within you myself, and Trisha has as well, but it's not really about what we see, because you have to be the person to see it and say, I am succeeding. I am going toward my goal. Don't put I'm getting there little by little, because you're already demeaning yourself when you're taking big strides. I mean, you're walking 5Ks, and I'm like, wait a minute, CP 5K. I don't. My legs are like, you think I'm doing that? Now, getting back into martial arts and training for the tournament on June 4th. I made a commitment. That's what I'm going to do. I work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm working out after I get off the show. The commitment to it is, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. You said you were going to do it, and you've done it. And it's been done well because you've given yourself the opportunity to be the best Kristina that you can be. Let the best be good enough for Kristina.
And that's just it, the commitment. I mean, I don't think people realize that, like, consistency is really key to your success in anything that you do. You can talk all you want and say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Unless you act upon it and are consistent about it, that consistency is what's going to help you see those results. If you're not consistent, ultimately, it's going to be a struggle to get to where you want to go.
Well, for the last part of the show, I've got a new segment that I'm doing. I'll do it with all my guests, and it's called, I don't know if we'll get to 10 questions because we got about 10 minutes left, but I'm going to throw a couple of questions at you. These are completely random, and I just want to get your answers to them, if you don't mind. Kristina, what is your favorite sound?
I mean, when I typed these questions, I didn't think about my own answers. Oh gosh, I don't know. Probably like just nature sounds. I mean, I like to walk outside, so.
Okay. What is your least favorite word?
Probably that R word that people use that I don't, I mean, I don't even like to say it, but
the dreaded R word. We know the R word that we're talking about.
Other words we can use besides
that. What is a long-term goal that you've had set for yourself?
I mean, a long term. Well, I guess this is kind of creeping into the short term, but I'm, finishing up a master's degree here. Getting ready to defend my thesis in June. So that's kind of a little bit more in the short term. In the long term, by the end of the summer, I want to do another 5K again at a little bit of a faster speed. I actually just did my first one today in the new braces on the treadmill. And it was good, but it was slower than what I like. So hopefully by the end of the summer, I will be speeding across the finish line again.
Okay. Name a food that you hate.
Honestly, nothing. I'm a foodie. I mean, I feel like DJ, you know that's true. So that's, yeah.
Okay. Tell me something that makes you sad.
Oof. I'm a pretty happy person. I mean, there's not really a lot that gets me down. I guess when I see, friends struggling with things, and I've always been the type of person that wants to help somebody. So when I don't know how to help somebody, it can be a little bit discouraging.
Okay. 2 more. Tell me your favorite emotion.
Happy. Because it's what I am, it's what I strive to be a majority of the time. I've always been considered a happy person.
Okay, last question. If you could talk to anyone that you wanted, alive or dead, who would it be and why?
I mean, if I didn't have to pick one person, it'd probably be my grandpas, because I was close to both of them, and they've been gone now. One since I was a sophomore in high school, and the other since I was a sophomore in college. So I know that they're looking down on me, but I guess I just would want to talk to them and tell them about all these things, because like when my maternal grandpa passed away, at the time I was getting ready to go on my first trip to Spain. He never got to see me travel, never got to see me become a teacher. And there's just a lot of things that I didn't get to share with him. Same for the grandpa that passed away when I was in high school. I'm not even sure if I had decided what I wanted to do with my life at that point. So, you know, they didn't get to see me grow into the adult that I am now.
They are definitely smiling upon you now because your journey is being seen by many people, and you keep doing what you're doing because you're doing a wonderful job. Is there anything that you want to share? Any final thoughts? If you want to share how we can contact you or how to get a hold of you, that's great.
Final thoughts or advice. I would just say that if you've got CP, please do your stretches. It's not really that hard of a thing to do, and it can be so valuable. You know, I think people sometimes get discouraged because of the pain or the stiffness that they do have, and they get down on themselves and they think that they, you know, can't be active and can't do these things. But the reality is you've just got to start somewhere, and just, you know, don't give up on those things, because, you know, being active and getting healthier is just eventually going to be to your benefit. It's okay to start slow, and, you know, slow and steady really does win the race in that situation. So.
Okay. Well, guys, that's going to wrap up this episode of My CP Does Not Define Me. If you guys want to reach out to me, you can contact me on one of 3 YouTubes. My CP Does Not Define Me, Chairmaster Games, and Worth the Wait Cooking with DJ Carter. You can also contact me on Twitter, My CP Does Not Define Me, Instagram, My CP Does Not Define Me, my blog, CarterDJ85 at Wixsite.com. I will have DJ's Music Mania put back up here pretty soon. I'm working on that, hoping to launch that in the next couple of weeks. And I am launching TikTok as well. So My CP Does Not Define Me will be there too.
Oh my, TikTok and everything. Yeah, I'm pretty boring with social media though, guys. It's just Kristina McCormick on everything. So you can search me. And of course, I've got my show with my friend Kyle, the CP Chronicles. So you can check me out there every other Saturday. Yeah, so that's
well, it's always fun having you. I'm sure we'll have you back again at some point, because I love having you on the show. It's just so fun. Thank you guys for tuning in and asking all your great questions. Love having you on the show. Can't do it without you. Thank you so much for being here. We will see you next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern for episode 91 and some fun on My CP Does Not Define Me. We will see you next week. As I always say, if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me. As always, you can catch us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the Disability Global Broadcast and Facebook Live. If you haven't already checked out our YouTube channel, My CP Does Not Define Me, we post all of the show videos in our My CP playlist. I'm your host, D to the J with the roll away. And if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. We'll see you next week.